Hello and welcome to our new series of educational videos, The Learning Curve. This is a new initiative of TIOLTUBE where we take up complex subjects and break them down into simpler forms. So let's flag off this journey with our first episode.
The Demon of Demonetization.
Yes, we will focus on the sudden demonetization of Rs 500 and 1000 currency notes announced by the central government, which is not only making news but affecting each and every citizen of this country. So what is demonetization? Demonetization is a measure by which a currency unit is deprived of its status as legal tender. The existing currency units loses its legal validity from the time appointed by the government. So does this mean that currency will no longer be a legal tender? To understand this, first let's understand the meaning of legal tender. Legal tender is a medium of payment recognized by a legal system to be valid for meeting a financial obligation. So once legal tender is withdrawn, validity of currency as payment instrument is gone. You must have seen that every currency carries a promise from the RBI governor to pay the amount denominated in the currency to the bearer of the note. Once the legal tender is cancelled, the liability of the government to pay the bearer of the note stands extinguished. Is it happening for the first time? Let's travel back in time to look at the history. It first happened in 1946 when the Reserve Bank of India demonetized the then circulated Rs 1000 and 10,000 rupee notes. Higher denomination banknotes in Rs 1000, 5000 and 10,000 were introduced 8 years later in the year 1954. Again, in 1978, the Morarji Desai government demonetized these high denomination notes. So what is the difference between demonetization in 1978 and 2016? First, in 1978, the government passed a statute called High Denomination Banknote Demonetization Act 1978. In 2016, only a notification has been issued by the Ministry of Finance.
Second difference. In 1978, only 0.6% high-value denomination notes were in circulation. But as on March 31, 2016, almost 86% of the high-value denomination notes are in circulation. Third, and an interesting difference is that in 1978, there was prohibition on transfer and receipt of high denomination notes, while in 2016, there is no such prohibition on distribution of demonetized notes.
Mr. A buys apples from Mr. B and pays Rs 1000 note to Mr. B. If Mr. B is willing to accept the demonetized Rs 1000 note, the contract is valid and the payment is legal. Legal aspect. Where does the government derive its power from to demonetize Rs 500 and 1000 currency notes? The legal basis of demonetizing currency comes from Section 26 of the RBI Act 1934. Under subsection 2 of the section, the Union government has the power to withdraw legal tender of any currency. What about the constitutional validity? Is it not arbitrary? Let's see what Supreme Court has to say on this. The constitutional validity of the High Denomination Banknotes Demonetization Act 1978 was challenged before the Supreme Court in Jayanti Lal Ratnachand Shah versus Reserve Bank of India on the basis that it was a violation of the right to carry out trade and commerce and it amounted to compulsory acquisition of property without compensation by the government. Constitution bench of the Supreme Court held that such demonetization law was in public interest given its purpose to control the problem of unaccounted money and did not in any way amount to a violation of the right of the petitioners. Now let's take up the taxation aspect. Will the taxman come knocking at our doors? What will happen if we deposit cash in our banks? These are some of the many questions which are troubling us. The government has recently introduced amendments in the Income Tax Act to address these queries. Taxation Law's Second Amendment Bill 2016. So what will happen after these amendments come into place? If a person has deposited cash into the account between November 9 to December 30, 2016 and shows it in the income tax return but fails to explain the source of the cash to the satisfaction of the taxman, then it will attract 60% and a surcharge of 25%. This means the effective tax rate becomes 75%. In addition to this, there will be a penalty of 10% of the amount of tax to be paid. The government has also introduced a new scheme called Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana 2016, which will become part of the Finance Act 2016. Under this scheme, anyone disclosing income shall have to pay tax at the rate of 30% on undisclosed income plus penalty of 10% of tax amount plus 33% cess. 25% of the undisclosed income will be invested into this scheme. This scheme will have a lock-in period of 4 years with no interest. Now let's move on to the most important and crucial aspect of demonetization, which is the biggest concern of everyone. Yes, the impact on the overall economy. The immediate questions that come to our minds are, is it really going to wipe out the ghost economy? Will it stop future generation of black money? But first, let's understand some basic statistics. The value of high denomination notes in circulation 1978 was a mere rupees 130 crores, unlike the present situation, where the value of high denomination notes in circulation is rupees 14.18 lakh crore or 86% of the value of all notes in circulation. As per the latest SBI report, out of rupees 14.18 lakh crore, approximately 12 lakh crore will be deposited into the banks, and around rupees 2.5 lakh crore is expected not to come back into the banking system. But this is again a speculation, and one will have to wait to see the final outcome. Now let's understand the benefits. The biggest benefit of demonetization is that it helps in punishing for a crime committed in the past, that is, hoarding of cash, which becomes dysfunctional. Cash introduced into the banking system will improve the money multiplier effect, that is, the banks will be able to lend more at a lower rate, which will help the real estate sector and overall investments. Huge amount of untaxed cash circulating in the market is expected to come within the taxation bracket. In midterm, price gaps between resale properties and those bought directly from builders will narrow down. Moreover, the biggest benefit would be that it hits at the psyche of the large chunk of Indians who are used to only cash transactions. However, the biggest problem is that one does not know how much black money is in circulation. Black money stashed as high-value currency is much less than black money as untaxed income, part of which might be splurged in conspicuous consumption or used for investments in real estate, commodities, stocks, benami lending, etc. Several economists are of the strong opinion that demonetization leads to financial chaos. Let's quickly understand the immediate negative impact of demonetization. Demonetization will not have any impact on the unaccounted money stashed abroad in tax havens like Switzerland. Demonetization can clear hoarded stock but not stop future generation, that is, the flow. GDP growth may come down due to sharp decline in consumption demand, which in turn can impact overall production. Agricultural sector will be badly hit, which operates mostly in cash. Informal sector, which generates 80% of the employment, will be hit hard due to cash crunch. So the conclusion, it can be said that demonetization is painful in short term but can yield benefits in future provided the government takes long policy measures to plug all the loopholes in the system which promotes generation of black money. Thank you for watching TIOLTUBE.com.